Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the Movieslingers podcast. Today it's gonna be just me, Nuwan, joining you guys, and we are going to be talking about the new Dracula inspired film called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I watched this just a few days ago, and I thought, hey, there's a lot of Dracula stuff coming out in recent times. We also had Renfield, the one with Nicolas Cage. So I thought, hey, this thing is worth talking about. All the horror fans were raving about it. They seem to really like this one. So I thought, even though I'm not much of a horror fan myself, I thought, okay, I'll just give it a shot and check it out. But before we get to the Last Voyage of the Demeter, there are some other news that I do want to get into for just a little bit. So the Aquaman trailer, the Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom trailer dropped last night. And I thought, I wasn't really excited for it or anything. And I wasn't even like a fan of the first film. I didn't like it at all. But I did think that this new trailer looked kind of cool. It's so weird because one of the only few things that I liked from the first film is that little moment between Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson, and James Wan is saying that the sequel is gonna be a full-on bromance film. These two brothers are gonna go on an adventure, and I thought, okay, so he took the 5 minutes I liked from the first movie and turned it into an entire movie. So I think that's pretty cool. And of course, you have Yahya Abdul-Mateen coming back as Black Manta. I wasn't a fan of him in the first movie, but I have recently begun to really like him in his other work. Like, he was in the Watchmen TV show, and of course, he was great in Michael Bay's Ambulance. So I'm looking forward to seeing him now for the first time. So the Aquaman trailer looks kind of cool. I mean, we were worried about it. Everyone was like, where's the marketing for this movie, right? Like, it's only coming out in just a couple of months, and we haven't had a trailer or a poster or nothing, and everyone was thinking, okay, this movie is doomed. And then the trailer comes out and people seem to be quite excited by it. It looks pretty cool. Of course, we have no idea how this is going to turn out. And like I said, I didn't like the first one. But yeah, I'm hopeful that this one will be a good entry. I mean, it's going to be the final film in the DCEU. But, if there's one thing I know about the DCEU, that you can't really predict which ones are going to be good and which ones are going to be bad. So yeah, hoping this might be a fun time. And James Wan has said that this film is not connected really to most of the DCEU. This is gonna be pretty much a standalone film. So yeah, so that trailer dropped, and I thought it looked pretty cool. And also, like, Blue Beetle came out a few weeks ago, and we couldn't do a review. We didn't really have time to do a review. I'm not even sure if Dunul has actually watched Blue Beetle. But anyway, I did watch it, and I thought it was really good. And I think it wasn't just good. I thought it was like one of the better solo films in the DCEU. Zolo Marduena as Jaime Reyes was really good. The action was cool. If you played the video game Injustice 2, Blue Beetle is really cool. And he has really cool moves, and he can build like anime swords. He makes a giant anime sword in the movie, and that was really cool. And it has like that Peter Parker Miles Morales type of story, and I thought it was really good. It was really funny. The cast is funny. The bad guy has this really tragic backstory, and he looks kind of like a guy in like an Iron Man type of suit. A lot of the movie does look like Iron Man, but it does look good. Everyone complained about the CGI in the trailers, but the actual movie, it looks really cool. So Blue Beetle was good, yeah. So it's so weird that we are right at the end of the DCEU, and nobody's really excited for a lot of these movies. But Blue Beetle proved that you can do a really good movie, as long as you get the character right, and the cast right, and the comedy and all of that. So okay, so that's my little side thing about the DC stuff that has been going on. Now let's finally get to the Last Voyage of the Demeter. Right, so this movie is basically based on the captain's log, of the Demeter in Bram Stoker's Dracula novel, right? So they took the captain's log, which talks about how there's some monster on board and people are dying one by one, and the captain's keeping a record of everything, and they find it in the wreck of the Demeter in the Dracula novel. And so basically they took this small little bit from Dracula's story, and they turned it into a whole movie. Now this thing, it's a really cool concept, I will say that, right? Because it's essentially Alien, right, on a ship. And I think that's pretty much what they were going for. And in fact, they even had Noomi Rapace, who was in Prometheus. She was attached to star in this film at one point, but I think she actually left it to do Prometheus. Maybe she didn't want to do two very similar things at the same time. I don't know. But anyway, this thing is directed by André Øvredal. Oh, I'm sorry if I butchered that name. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. He's a Norwegian director. He's the guy who did The Troll Hunter, this little film from 10-15 years ago, which is pretty cool, about Norwegian mythology and trolls and all that kind of thing. So he's no stranger to horror. So he's in this one. So they're basically doing like an alien on a ship. So basically what's happening is, this is the part in Dracula where Dracula, he hires the gypsies, that are sort of working for him in Transylvania. He hires them to deliver his so basically Dracula is hiding in like a coffin inside these crates, and the gypsies deliver the crates to the ship, and so the ship is basically hired to take Dracula to London, because he's realized, okay, there's not enough people in Transylvania for him to kill, and something like that, right? And then he's basically traveling to London. So the movie starts with these gypsies. They bring in these crates, and they all have the symbol of Dracula, his coat of arms on the outside. And one guy sees it and starts freaking out. And then, they put the crates on board the ship. And, there's there's a, feeling of, there's some foreshadowing going on, this guy says, oh, that's the, I don't want to get into this ship. This guy who's hired to go on the ship. He refuses to go because he's afraid of the evil that they are bringing on board the ship. And so they are getting all these. They hire a bunch of people, and the ship sets sail. So right off the bat, you have. I think one of the best things about this movie is the cast. The casting is great. You have people like David Dastmalchian as like the first mate on the ship. You have Game of Thrones is Liam Cunningham. He's the captain, and you have this doctor guy who gets in called Corey Hawkins. He's pretty good. And later on, we come across this other girl called Anna, who's also in one of the crates, because Dracula needs a snack while he's traveling, so he brings her as well. She's still alive. They set sail, and we are introduced to a lot of the characters that are on board, and they are all, all of these, even like the minor supporting characters are, pretty memorable, right? You know they are pretty likable, and there are scenes that set all of these characters up. And yeah, and slowly, of course, at one point Dracula gets out of his crate, and starts picking off the crew one by one. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing gets kicked off when they actually accidentally they come across the woman that's actually hidden in the crates, right? This Anna character, and then so they take her out of the hold, and obviously that means Dracula is now hungry because he doesn't have his snack anymore. So he now has to come out sooner than he expected, because he is severely sort of malnourished, and he needs blood. He constantly needs blood to survive. So he starts killing off first he starts killing off the animals that are on board. He kills the dog, unfortunately. Yeah, that's right. This movie kills a dog. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sorry if I spoil that, but like it happens, like it's like the first kill that happens in the whole thing. Really makes you hate Dracula. So I think that's probably a good thing. Right off the bat, if you want the audience to hate a character, have them kill a dog. So yeah, then after a while, they realize that. The doctor realizes that this woman, Anna, she's losing blood, that she has some kind of infection, and we all know what that is. Of course, they don't really fully understand it. And yeah, so, Dracula starts coming out, and they start to notice, weird things. They have this thing that they do in the movie where, if you tap, one part of the ship, that tap can be heard from the other side. And so they use this little thing to kind of build suspense, because the person on the other side has to answer. And when they start noticing weird things, this thing keeps coming back. Yeah, but what I really like about this movie is that that it doesn't have a lot of jump scares. Like, a lot of the scares are like you see something, but there's no loud noise or anything. You see, like, one of the first kills is like you see, like, okay, actually this crew member sees Dracula kind of on the ground, right? Sort of on the ground, lying down, and he just we the audience can see it as well. And he looks weak. So maybe the guy thinks it's like a body or something. He's walking towards it, and then Dracula just sort of gets up and jumps right at him, right? And but the cool thing about scenes like that is, like, we see it, right? We see everything in the scene, and it's not like something suddenly jumps out of frame and there's a loud noise. This movie doesn't do that sort of thing. So I really appreciate like horror movies that don't rely on jump scares. So this one, the parts where Dracula is hunting the crew, it's done pretty well, not too bad. There's obviously a lot of gore in the film as well. There's a huge amount of gore. There's a lot of people, the crew, they all get killed off in various ways. So that's something that obviously, Dracula fans or vampire fans, people who are watching this type of movie, they want to see a lot of blood and all that. So this movie has, I think enough of those to kind of keep you entertained. And yeah. Now, I did say, like, people like, one of the best things was the cast. Like, David Dastmalchian as Wojak, he's like the first mate. This guy is really good, like, and I think this is like one of the bigger roles we have seen him in. I mean, he's usually in like some small, like, minor supporting role, but this time he's like a full-on, one of the main cast members, and he is really good. Like, this guy, I feel like, is going places, ever since we saw him, as that dude that as that dude in the Dark Knight that Harvey Dent interrogates, right? He's just a really weird looking dude, but then he's grown into such a good actor, and I feel like, yeah, he's probably ready to do a full on lead character. I think he can lead a movie. This guy, he's really good, and I hope he gets more chances like this to really show what he can do. So he is really good, and then you have like the Corey Hawkins character, is the doctor. He's Clemens. He's really good as well, and he has this thing where we'll get to it in a little bit. Like he's like the man of science. He wants to make sense of the world. He wants everything to make sense, and so when things start going. They start noticing that people are going missing and people are dying, and like he's still kind of trying to like keep a grip on reality. Like he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on here, right? And of course Liam Cunningham is always like good, and you also have Aisling Franciosi as Anna. She is badass in this film. So she's, at first, most of the movie she's sort of knocked out. She's still recovering from Dracula having drained her blood and all that, but after they do like a blood transfusion, the doctor does a blood transfusion, she starts getting up and she starts warning everybody about what's going on. Of course they don't really believe her at first, but after a while she really grows into like a really strong character, because she's like she talks about how in her village back home, Dracula has been controlling this village. I mean, they really do her bidding, right? And this is also mentioned. This is also like a bit of lore from the book, because they do mention that, in this Romanian kind of area, town, in Transylvania, these gypsies, they actually, they have no choice but to work for Dracula. They don't like him, they fear him, but he is so powerful that they cannot do anything. And she talks about how her whole life they have been like living in the shadow of Dracula and all that. And so she's the one who actually fills in all the kind of lore, because she's sort of the exposition type of character. She gives all of that information to the crew to kind of understand what is going on. So because she knows what's happening, and and so Dracula, there's a lot of Dracula mythology, included in this film, and especially when you look at the kind of powers that he has. Like at one point he bites this guy, but he doesn't kill him, right? He doesn't drain him dry, so he's still alive. And at one point Dracula sort of takes control of him, right? That's something that's right out of the book, I think. He can control people like that, the vampires. And also, like, one thing I really did enjoy was, like, at one point, after, towards the end of the film, where the crew is sort of like trying to set up a trap for Dracula, right? he kind of starts creating like this mist, this fog. And that I remember from the book. That's also like a power that he has. He can control the weather, right? He can, sort of conjure up some fog to kind of hide in. And I thought that was cool. Okay. And even how, a lot of the movie, after they realize there's somebody, some evil on board, they start to kind of, search the ship, right? But they can never find Dracula. And I think a lot of viewers will probably be very confused about this, but I think has something to do with the fact that Dracula can kind of move, right? He can move through, he can get in and out of places that you can't really find him. I think that's something, if I remember correctly, that is something that was in the book, that he can sort of move in and out of places without anybody noticing. So that probably explains why, even though they search the ship, the entire crew starts searching the ship, they can never find this guy. He's somehow hidden through all of this. Yeah. And of course, Dracula is he's pretty much completely in his monster form. Like we never see him in human form. He's completely in his sort of bat-like, monster kind of form. And his design, I think it looks okay at best. I mean, a lot of the practical, effects, like, the prosthetics and the makeup and all of that, when it's the real actor in front of you, it looks pretty cool. But sometimes it is CGI, and I mean, it looks kind of like, it reminds me a lot of the design of Marcus from Underworld Evolution. I don't know if you guys remember those movies. Underworld is that series with Kate Beckinsale where she's a vampire and there's lichens and all of that stuff. So Dracula kind of looks like Marcus when he's in the monster bat form, with the wings and everything. He looks kind of like that, but I thought Marcus looks cooler. I don't know, for some reason I'm not entirely happy with Dracula's design. And also, I think probably the biggest disappointment about this film is that, like, for example, in Underworld Evolution, Marcus has a really kind of tragic backstory, and you kind of root for him in a way as well, because you understand why he's doing what he's doing. The thing is, Dracula in this film never takes human form, and so we really don't really get any information about, like, what his whole thing is, what his deal is. I mean, he doesn't really do anything other than killing and eating people. Like, that's it. He's pretty much the alien from Alien, like the xenomorph from Alien. Like, he does not do anything. And I think this is really disappointing because, for a number of reasons. One being that, the girl Anna says that Dracula can sometimes, he wears the skin of a human when he wants to hide, when he wants to go undetected. So she says that he can look human when he wants to. And, and that's that's at least half of Dracula's whole thing, right? Because he becomes human and he's, very charming, he's seductive, and he can use his human form to distract and hide and, and obviously to seduce people, right? That's one of the things that he's really known for. Like, if you watched Coppola's film where Gary Oldman plays Dracula, like a lot of the scenes are him, in human form, going around and meeting women and all that sort of thing, right? And I thought that was like a big kind of missed opportunity. Like, he never takes human form in this film, because I thought because there's a lot of potential for storytelling and interesting, tension building if he does appear human at one point, right? Because one thing I thought was, like, okay, if he can become human, he can actually, like, pretend to be somebody who's on the ship, right? And for example, the character Clemens, right, the doctor, he's new to the ship. He's somebody who just joins the crew in the beginning of the movie, so he doesn't know everyone on board the ship. So imagine, like, a scene where he meets this guy on the ship and he thinks, oh, that's just another crew member, right? That's just another guy on the crew, but he's actually Dracula in human form. I mean, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool if they, like, had some guy who's just there and he can maybe even have a couple of conversations with Clemens, and that, I think, is the other missed opportunity, because Clemens's whole thing is that, he's like the scientist, right? He wants to kind of make sense of the world. And I thought that, okay, that's interesting, but there's no counterpoint to that. There's nobody for him on his level of intelligence to have an argument about, the nature of evil or the nature of reality, or like, because he doesn't believe in supernatural stuff, right? Clemens doesn't believe in supernatural stuff, and now you have like Dracula, who is, he's drinking the blood of people. He's turning them into vampires, and he has all these crazy abilities. He's obviously a character that really challenges Clemens's worldview, and it would have been so cool if he could have appeared in human form, and they could have, Clemens, without knowing this is Dracula, has a conversation with him or something. And then, right, because at the end of the film, right, when there's the big showdown happening on, it's between Clemens and Dracula, Clemens, kind of shouts, I am not afraid of you. He says that, this world does make sense. You make sense. He tells Dracula, you make sense. Because he at first while the whole idea of Dracula challenges his worldview, it does make sense, because Dracula, has to feed. He gets hungry. Dracula is also scared. So he is something that, with time you can make sense of. And but the thing is, when Clemens shouts that out, there's no real thematic weight, because they never really had any real kind of moments between them, right, to kind of to justify that statement at the end of the thing. I feel like if they had like a couple of conversations, and they even sort of become friends or something, Clemens, without not knowing that this is Dracula. And then towards the end, when it's revealed that, oh, this guy I was talking to on the ship, he's not part of the crew, he's Dracula, like that could have been like such a kind of cool moment, and then the showdown at the end between the two of them would have had so much weight, and then him saying, I'm not afraid of you. You still make sense to me, and that whole thing would have more thematic weight. And I feel like, and also like, the human side of Dracula is like at least half of the character, like, so just putting him just as pretty much completely in his monster form kind of is disappointing. I mean, yeah, sure, he's there to kill people and drink their blood, but that's pretty much it. He's no different than having a velociraptor or like a giant shark or something. There's really no thematic element to this film. It's purely a monster in the ship killing people. There's really no kind of interesting discussion going on. And I thought, and Dracula himself doesn't really have much of a personality. All he does, like I said, the thing where they tap the ship to kind of signal somebody's there, he uses that a couple of times to kind of show that he's there. And he mumbles a couple of lines before he kills people. That's pretty much all he does, with his intelligence and the fact that he can become human if he wants. Like, that's all he does, right? So that I thought was pretty kind of disappointing, because even and for a movie that is sort of trying to do Alien, right? It's sort of trying to do Alien, and even in Alien, right? Even though the xenomorph is like there and killing people, you also had Ash, right? Ash was there to kind of, be sort of part of the crew, and then later on he betrays them. So that element was there in that more cerebral element, Whereas in the Last Voyage of the Demeter, that cerebral element is just not there. It's just a monster. He's just killing and devouring people. And obviously, how this whole thing ends, right? Everyone knows, right? As soon as this thing starts, they're not gonna kill Dracula. Because if you've read the book or you watched Coppola's film, the ship does arrive in London, and Dracula, gets out into the city. But there is the Clemens character does get out, so he actually escapes the ship. So he, even though originally in the book and the movie, the Demeter's crew is completely killed. No, there are no survivors, but Clemens actually does make it to shore. And they do show right at the end where he's in some kind of like a pub or something, and he's trying to track down Dracula, and then they show kind of Dracula also waiting for him and toying with him. So Dracula knows that Clemens is coming after him, and so Clemens is now going after Dracula, trying to hunt him down while he's in London. So I don't know what that means, what that ending means. I mean, are they going to do a sequel? I don't know. It's kind of pointless because the sequel is just the typical Dracula story with like Van Helsing and the Harkers and all of that, right? I don't know if they're going to do that, but then what would you do with the Clemens character? I have no idea. But so the ship arrives and he gets into London. There is one really sad scene with the Anna character, because she is now turning into a vampire, and there's this kind of tragic but beautiful moment where the sun rises and she starts burning, and that is actually very similar to a scene I saw in Midnight Mass. That TV show they had that also had like a vampire Dracula type of character in that one. And even in that film, like there was a character that was in a boat just at sunrise and has been bitten and gets starts burning. It looked pretty much the same thing, but I don't think they stole that scene, but it does look extremely similar. But so Last Voyage of Demeter, I'm sure like if you're just in it for like the horror aspect or the gore and the blood, and you just want to see like a monster film, I'm sure this is entertaining, because the gory elements are pretty cool. It's just that the movie doesn't really have much to say. There's nothing you're going to be thinking about after you finish watching it. You're not going to be thinking about the nature of evil or anything like that. But what I do like is that it did showcase the talents of the cast, especially Dastmalchian, and he's got so much to offer, and I really hope that somebody notices that. Last Voyage of Demeter. I mean, it's not the best Dracula thing, but I think like if you just want like a horror movie that doesn't rely on jump scares, that has a lot of blood and gore and some cool kills. It does have a lot of cool kills. It does kill people, in ways that you probably don't expect at some parts. There are some really nice surprises, really tense moments. The cast is really good, and I think and it looks good. Like the production is really good. It's not a big budget movie. It's more like a moderate budget kind of movie, and it does look good for its budget, right? So I think if you do want to watch this, unfortunately, it didn't release theatrically in a lot of places, but you can watch it on digital platforms like Apple and Amazon. It's online. You can go check it out on those platforms. It would have been I feel like it would have been kind of cool to watch this in the theater, because this is the kind of movie, because it does have good production values, and it's the kind of movie you want to see in a theater. This ship, and there's a storm, and it's dark, and there's a monster on, but like it's the kind of thing you want to see on a big screen. Maybe I would have liked it a bit more, even had I watched it in a theater. So so that's the Last Voyage of the Demeter. I don't know how. If I had to rate it, I might give it like a 6.5, maybe a 7, but probably not. 6.5 is probably quite generous, I think, for the movie. Like I said, I would have preferred to see a little bit more to Dracula's personality. But I guess if they do a sequel, they can actually fix that. Because you now have Dracula in human form walking around London. So now, if they do a follow-up film for this, they might be able to kind of, address the parts that I found disappointing, right? So they can have Dracula have some kind of personality, and he uses his human abilities to, to kill his prey and all of that. And it would obviously be now more exciting because now he knows Clemens is coming. Clemens knows he's coming, and it's a cat and mouse kind of thing. So if they do a sequel, they might be able to improve on its shortcomings. Of course, the problem is that the movie is a bit of a flop. It did not make its budget back. So it had a budget of about $45 million, and the box office was like $21.5 million. So yeah, even if they were planning on a sequel, they might not do it now. So yeah, but I think vampire fans will probably enjoy the blood. Yeah, so I wonder how the other Dracula film was, the one with Nicolas Cage. I am curious to see that one as well, and that one is called Renfield. And Renfield is this sort of the familiar that Dracula has, this kind of crazy man that kind of helps Dracula I think he's in the book as well. So and he has been in previous movie adaptations as well. So this Renfield character that Nicholas Hoult, I believe, is playing in the movie. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how that is. And of course, unlike Demeter, you cannot. I don't know if Renfield is a good movie, but I'm pretty sure that the Dracula in Renfield, it has a lot of personality. It's probably the opposite of the Dracula in Demeter, because obviously it's Nick Cage. Personality is pretty much bursting out of that man, right? So kind of curious to see how that one turned out. So I'm gonna be watching that film, and maybe in a future episode I will let you know if it's worth watching Renfield. So yeah, that's it for the Last Voyage of the Demeter. If you guys have watched it, let us know what you thought. Did you like it? Were you disappointed with the lack of the human side to Dracula, or were you did you really enjoy it? I did see a lot of people leaving positive comments about the Last Voyage of the Demeter. So there are people who like this film. So yeah, just let me know what you thought about it. And next week I think Dinul will be back, and we will probably be doing a review of A Haunting in Venice, the new Hercule Poirot film by Kenneth Branagh. Those Agatha Christie adaptations that he keeps doing. So we're probably going to be talking about that next week. So looking forward to that. So I think that's it for me for this episode. I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.